Voruna is the latest Warframe added to the game. Her parts and blueprints are found on the new Conjunction Survival nodes on Lua. The question then is quite simple. How long is it going to take to farm Voruna and her weapons? I'm Nick Engineer, let's solve a practical problem. First, let's cover the requirements. You must have completed the quest Angels of the Zariman in order to construct Voruna, as her build requirements include Void Gel Orbs, a resource exclusive to the area unlocked in that quest. Her weapons, however, only require resources and parts farmed from the new mission nodes, which just require completion of the War Within. You can still obtain Voruna parts before doing Angels of the Zariman, you just won't be able to construct her. Despite the inclusion of Void Gel Orbs, most of the materials to build Voruna are easily obtained. However, Voruna and her weapons require the new resource exclusive to Conjunction Survival nodes called Lua Thrax Plasm, which I'll take into account. Voruna herself also requires somatic fibers, dropped both from the new nodes and from the disruption mission Apollo on Lua. You may already have plenty of these, as only 20 of them are needed, but we'll consider these as well. The blueprints and weapon parts for Voruna's kit are all dropped from different rotations of Conjunction Survival, and can alternatively be purchased from Archimedean Yonta for Lua Thrax Plasm, again after completing the Angels of Zariman quest. As Lua Thrax Plasm is a guaranteed reward every 5 minutes of Conjunction Survival, this means there is a hard limit on how long you'll need to farm up any of these parts. Conjunction Survival rotations act just like normal survival, so I'll link my video on mission rotations in the video description if you need a refresher on how those work. So let's break this down a bit. Here are the drop tables for Uvarium, the lower level Conjunction Survival node. Due to the higher rate of relics and the inclusion of credits on Rotation A, the good rewards have a low rate here. Uvarium also gives you 3 Lua Thrax Plasm every 5 minutes, or 5 Lua Thrax Plasm if you're running on the Steel Path mode. The better drop tables are on the much higher level node Circulus. These tables don't have the credit reward and have reduced relic rates. In exchange, you get much higher drop rates for all blueprints, all weapon parts, and you have a chance of getting the new arcanes as mission rewards. For Circulus, you get 5 Lua Thrax Plasm every 5 minutes, or 6 if you're on the Steel Path mode. I'd recommend running Circulus, whether you're on Steel Path or not, for the much better reward table. If you find you're struggling with the normal version, you'll probably be better off focusing on upgrading your gear to make all farming easier in future. Lua Thrax Plasm also drops from the Thrax units which spawn every 5 minutes. The number of Thrax that spawn is 1 more than the number of players in the mission, and each Thrax has a 30% chance of dropping a single Lua Thrax Plasm. Alright, where does this put us with regards to farming Voruna? With 4 blueprints to get, all on the same rotation C, you absolutely must run at least 4 lots of 20 minutes to be able to build Voruna from mission drops. Every 20 minutes will also give you 20 plasm on normal Circulus, or 24 on the Steel Path, in addition to the drops from the Thrax spawns. If you are solo, that'll average 2.4 extra plasm per 20 minutes, up to 6 extra plasm in a full squad. Drop chance boosters, including the booster innate to Steel Path, resource boosters and Smeeta Kvat's charm can improve the drops on these Thrax units. So for typical rates, you can anticipate between 22 to 35 plasm per rotation C without account boosters. Considering that rotation C doesn't mean exactly 20 minutes, as you have to include loading, startup and extraction, let's round that down to 20 to 30 plasm per 20 minutes for normal cases. As building Voruna requires 125 plasm herself, and at best that's going to take about 4 rotation Cs to farm, there is no shortcutting this minimum. So the absolute minimum time to farm Voruna is 80 minutes of Conjunction Survival, and the chance of you pulling that off is 0.16% or 1 in 627. You will also need those 20 somatic fibers still to build Voruna, and 80 minutes of Circulus will not give you that many. Even with perfect luck, it can only have paid out 8 somatic fibers by that point, and getting that is roughly 1 in 2,000 chance of happening. Like I mentioned earlier, you may already have those fibers from doing Apollo on Lua in the past. Once we go beyond the minimum runs, this is where we get into the really interesting bit. Once you have all the Lua Thrax Plasm you need to build Voruna, every extra drop will give you incremental progress no matter what, because of Archimedean Yonta's store. In fact, if we ignore the random drops of Voruna's blueprint, the full set from Yonta would cost 350 plasm to buy, plus 125 plasm to build, giving us a total of 475 plasm required. At 30 plasm per 20 minutes in a Steel Path squad, that comes out to a little over 5 hours. If you're running solo on the normal mode of Circuitous, this time increases to about 8 hours. So at minimum, it'll take nearly 1.5 hours to farm Voruna's blueprint if you're very lucky, and at maximum it'll take 5 to 6 hours in a squad, or up to 8 hours solo if you're as unlucky as the game will permit. Well, not accounting for the somatic fibres. But I'm not going to stop there. Minimums and maximums for Voruna are one thing, this calls for graphs. Assuming you get 30 Thrax Plasm per rotation C, this is the percentage of players who'll need a given number of rotation Cs in order to get all Voruna blueprints, either through drops or buying them through Plasm. For brevity, I'm just referring to each rotation C as a run. The massive spikes at 7 and 10 runs are where you get enough spare Plasm to buy 1 and 2 Voruna parts while still being able to afford building her. Basically, that is the pity system kicking in, saving you from continuing to grind endlessly. The graph only goes up to 16 runs because by that point you will have earned enough Plasm at 30 per run to outright buy all parts and build Voruna without a single drop. So if we treat each rotation C as 21 minutes for a tiny bit of loading and extraction time, nearly a third of everyone will have Voruna within 3 hours, and roughly 90% of everyone will have her within 4 hours. As far as Warframe farms go, this is pretty even across the board. If we include getting both weapons as well, then the run counts shift to this graph. Again, we have spikes due to certain breakpoints in affording things from Yonta's store. Now this graph here stops at 22 runs, but it is possible to go beyond that. To buy everything with Plasm alone would need 35 runs of 30 Plasm. However, the chances of getting all of that Plasm with 0 useful drops is nearly nothing. In around 15,000 simulated players, only one simulation got as far as 22 runs. So all told then, most players running squads on Circuitous will need under 5 hours to get everything, with only the most unlucky needing to dip into their 8th hour of farming in a squad. But wait, I've skipped a detail with these graphs. Remember I mentioned somatic fibres? Well, it turns out that if you don't already have them, they become your bottleneck to building Voruna. There is no getting around this requirement, but the good news is that you can speed things up. Somatic fibres drop from rotation A of Circuitous around 38% of the time, but also 15% of the time from every demolisher on Apollo Disruption. If you go there even without a booster, you'll get an average of 0.6 per round every round of Disruption, and resource boosters will increase that even further. So either you run a bit more Conjunction Survival, scooping up the extra Plasm to buy new Arcanes for example, or you do even fewer runs of the Disruption node, grabbing a good amount of Axii Relics along the way. All told then, Voruna is actually one of the longer Warframe farms added to the game. Despite Voruna being a long farm though, she is a fair farm. Even if you're an unlucky player, there's a hard limit on how long it takes to get her weapons. Voruna herself has a soft limit due to the RNG of the somatic fibre farm. If you already have those from Axii farming, Voruna's pity system will ensure that at most, it'll take just a few hours longer. Because of this player-friendly system, no one gets left behind. Like I said, this is a fair farm. As you might expect, there's quite a bit of mathematics and a tiny bit of simulation coding that goes into the results I've given you in this video. To see more of how all that works, or to simply support me in doing more of this in the future, you can subscribe on Patreon at patreon.com/thekengineer, where you'll get instant access to the entire back catalogue of mathematics behind the scenes. That's all from me for now, so as always, survive Convergence, build Voruna, and fight well, Tenno.